Oh, that was really funny. I bit that hook, line, and sinker. I was out most of the week this week, so I did not go through our worship run through and didn't know what was taking place. So I was sitting up here in the band. So I thought, oh no, what's happening? So April Fool's on me today. I need to be more present during the week when they're doing the worship planning, so I know what's going on. Great idea, though. We are beginning a new series today called Not a Fan, and it's based on this book. The ideas came from this book. We're not going to preach the book, but if you'd like to read the book, we encourage you to read it or get yourself in a small group. A lot of our got numbers of groups that are studying this and doing it. It's going to be a great thing for our congregation to go through and to talk about for a few days, for a few weeks here. How many of you ever heard the word Twitter? Okay, it's a younger congregation. I appreciate that. How many of you have a Twitter account? Okay, that's a number. How many don't even know what the word Twitter means? All right, a couple of hands, not very many on that one. You know, I got to thinking, do you know who has the largest Twitter account? I mean, first I thought maybe it's President Obama, that would be the one. Then I was looking at some other, looked at Katy Perry. She had 34.1 million, but she was not number one either. Lady Gaga had more than she had. You know who's number one? He's 19. Give it to me. Justin Bieber. Can you believe that? He had 37.1 million followers. Now you can compare that to my 189. I checked the account last night. It lies dormant because I basically used it when I go on a missions trip. In fact, in 2010, when I went on a missions trip with International Leadership Institute, I started the Twitter account and was sending pictures and instantaneous reports through Twitter that was going to Facebook and also onto our website and all that. And I was the first one with that organization. They had groups going all over the world, and I was the first one to do it on Twitter. And so then everybody else began realizing that they could do that on mission trips, even in the deepest, darkest part of Africa. But basically what it is, you know, is you send out a sentence or two, 140 characters, so you really have to get it down to what you're going to say. And you can have what they call followers, people who follow what you say, and if you have an account, people can follow you, although some are a lot more interested. In fact, if you remember in the national championship football game, when they put the camera on the Alabama quarterback's girlfriend, Catherine Webb, and turns out she's like a former Miss Alabama or something, and the announcers just kept going on and on about how good looking she was and everything. She passed up her boyfriend on Twitter account. She got like 100,000 followers just like that from that camera and all that attention that was going on through her. So, but the question I raised with that, are they really followers? Or are they just fans? Because if you go by the dictionary definition of a fan would be an enthusiastic admirer. Fans are those who know a lot of facts about somebody. In fact, you could find out facts, you know, through Twitter account or other ways too, that Katy Perry is 5'8" tall. And she grew up in Santa Barbara, California. In fact, her mama and her father are pastors. And she grew up singing gospel songs. In fact, that's where her first fame was. Katie Hudson was her name. And now she changed her name. She kept pop career, all that. But that's just facts. It doesn't affect my life at all. Doesn't affect anybody's life at all. You can admire her career, all those things. But admiration doesn't really make a difference in your life. Transformation does not occur or happen because of that. Now, a true follower is someone who knows facts about who they're following and what they're following, but it makes a difference in their lives. I mean, these They want to be like the one they're following, and they allow the one that they're following to shape their hopes and their dreams and their aspirations and their values. Well, I can remember when I was like 4 or 5 years old, I was a follower of my dad. I mean, I wanted to be just like him. And I can remember he'd get ready to mow the yard and had this old push Yazoo lawnmower. And it had a little bar right in the middle. And he would grab up there, and I would be really small, and I'd be in front of him holding on to the little bar. And here we're going. We're just mowing the yard. You know, by the time I was 7, I learned that was work and quit that. But at that stage, I suppose everybody, you know, I wanted to do everything. And I can remember my son Matthew wanting to be like me. And he had a little Bible. He had a little New Testament that he'd walk around with. And he said, Daddy, I need a sermon to go. And we got out a 3x5 card, and I wrote down a 3-point sermon on how to lead somebody to Christ, and we stuck that in the New Testament. And he carried that around a long time. Till probably he was about 7, he realized that was work. So, you know, here's it. Jesus does not want fans, enthusiastic admirers. He wants followers. And what I'm concerned about is that maybe many of us, Christ followers, may just really be Christ fans. Oh, we know a lot of facts about Jesus. He was born in Bethlehem to Joseph and Mary. Started his ministry at age 30, went for 3 years, then was crucified, dead and buried. He rose, and for 40 days he appeared. And then he ascended into heaven and sent the Holy Spirit back. All these things, we've got the facts down. We've got our little 140-character tweets down about his life. But if we're not careful, we're just fans and not followers. So what about us? What about us here today? What are we? Fans or followers? Soren Kierkegaard was a Swedish theologian in the 1800s. He had this idea, and he talked about church being a drama, that what took place was a drama. He said, but the church had redefined the roles and had the drama wrong. But he said that they were teaching wrongly that God was the prompter, and that you had professional musicians and preachers and choir and scripture readers and all that up front, and they were the actors, and the people in the congregation was the audience. So God would be prompting the actors to do their thing. You got the audience watching the actors. He said it's exactly wrong, that the roles are all mixed up. He said it's just the opposite. He said the people up front on the stage are the prompters. They're the ones prompting you to worship, trying to move you to worship. And then all of us are the actors. And God is the audience. You're not the audience. You're the actors. And we get that confused. And so when we walk out, we go get in the car, and the evaluation of the drama starts. Man, the band was hot today. They were good. They were really rocking. And Rule, well, he wasn't on his A game today. I mean, you know, I've heard him do better. It's all right, but I've heard him do better. And they were out of scones, too. Did you notice that? They were out of scones, and when I got there in the coffee, and the coffee was cold, a little cold. It wasn't hot like it usually is, and it was so cold inside. Did you notice how cold? Or it was so hot. Why can't they turn the air conditioner down and get that where it needs to be? You see, we start evaluating the drama. We walk out, we start evaluating the drama on how everybody did. When really it ought to be just the opposite. We walk out, and if you want to do an evaluation, it's on how did the actors do? How did you do? Was God pleased with you? Was he pleased with the interaction that he was having with you? Was he pleased with the conversation that was going on? Was he pleased with your heart worship? Was he pleased? Did Did you mean the words that you said? Was he pleased with what you put in the offering plate? Did it represent who you are and what you've given to him in your life? We could go on and on and on. The evaluation is for us. How did you do today? That's the drama that's unfolding before us when we talk about being followers or fans. Are we really followers of him? I'll tell you, many of us come to church week in and week out, and we listen to the music, and we're part of a small group, and we know when to stand up and to sit down and applaud and all that things. We've got it down. But are we following Jesus? I want you to see this picture I found. Jesus sitting with a guy, and he says, no, I'm not talking about Twitter. I literally want you to follow me. So what is? How can I determine if I'm a fan or a follower? Let's be really honest with ourselves. Do I grade myself by comparison? That's what a fan would do, would grade themselves by comparison. Remember going to school and they graded, when the classes grade on a curve? You know, you kind of got some, few's going to make A's and B's, and then they got the big curve, but they moved the grade up according to what somebody made. I was talking to my son the other day, and I was telling him when he's getting ready to take a test, I said, I hope you make an A. He's in engineering school, and I think they curve every class. He said, Dad, I don't need to make an A. I said, why not? He said, all I need to do is beat the guy next to me. He'd already figured out how the curve works. He said, I only need to study better than my classmates. So, you know, we begin to compare ourselves with other Christians. Now, most of us are smart enough, we're not going to pick out Mother Teresa or Billy Graham. I'm not going to measure up if I compare myself to them. But we look at somebody else who's less, who is below where we are, somebody who's worse than we are. So we feel a little superior in our walk with Jesus and say, well, at least I'm not whoever. Do I measure myself by performance? We have a checklist. Maybe the list goes something like this. I go to worship every week. I'm in a small group. I tithe my 10%. I serve somewhere in church. Now, don't get me wrong. Those are all wonderful things. In fact, if you come here very often, you'll see us pushing and pressing to get everybody doing this all the time. But the problem is, after you've been to church for a long time, after you've been active and involved in church, you tend to think that that's what your relationship with Jesus is about, doing these things. Especially hard for one behind the pulpit, where you do these things all the time. And it's easy to think, because I do these things and because I work in the Bible and I study the Bible and I do all, that's a relationship with Jesus. And it can all be just as sterile for me as anything just as attending church can be for you. It's about a relationship. And if we're fans, we measure ourselves by performance. Fans say, do I evaluate myself by history? Do you have a drug problem? Were you drugged to church when you were little? A lot of people have drug problems. They were drugged to church all their lives and everything. And, you know, and church is just a part of their life. You even got your seat. Hey, by the way, we messed you up, didn't we, a little bit on those seating. You couldn't find your seat very well, could you? That's the problem with Easter Sunday. I can't tell if you're here or not. There's too many people out there. You've lost your seat. Same way on Christmas Eve, you know. I can check roll usually on church Sundays, but Christmas Eve and Easter, I can't. Everybody's all mixed up. We say, you know, of course I'm a follower. I've been in church all my life. I've been going to church. Of course I'm a follower. I don't even know where my seat is. It's right there, my seat. And I'm in it. We evaluate by history, but we need to be reminded that God doesn't have any grandchildren. God doesn't have a single grandchild. Only children. If we think we're walking with Jesus because Mama walked with Jesus, we're mistaken. do I appraise myself with Jesus? Now, you know what an appraisal is? That's when they look over everything and go over everything. We just had an appraisal on our house, and some lady comes and goes through every single thing about your house and everything about your house. You know, the plumbing and the wiring and the roof, and have you upgraded anything? Have you done anything? I mean, it's a thorough thing. It's an appraisal. Do we appraise our lives with Jesus? You and Jesus. Imagine you're going to Starbucks and you're going to sit down and you're going to appraise your relationship. And you and Jesus are going to sit down and have a DTR talk. Do you know what a DTR talk is? Watch this 1-minute video and you'll soon know.
DTR. Some of you will recognize what those letters stand for. If you're not sure, let me help you out. If you are a young man in a relationship with a young woman, then chances are these letters are enough to strike fear into your heart. You may run away from, postpone, you may dread the DTR talk. Some young men will even terminate a relationship if they feel like the DTR talk is imminent. It is that official talk that takes place in every romantic relationship. Do you know what it stands for, DTR? Define the relationship. You sit down and you decide where things are going. Have things move from casual to committed? I remember this date I went on in high school. On the very first date, the girl tried to have the DTR talk with me. First date, DTR. I got out of there PDQ. I just ran away.
Y'all have all had those talks, haven't you? Sure you have. I remember when Lisa and I had the DTR talk. I was sitting there and we'd been going out casually with friends and stuff like that. And one time she didn't show up on our little outing and I got upset. And anyway, we were sitting around and I just said, "Are we dating?" That's how casual it had gone into, "Are we dating?" I want to invite you to have a DTR talk with Jesus. Now, I just might ask this question. What might he ask? Let me give you 3 questions real quickly here. Why are you here? That might be a question he might ask you. You're sitting down in Starbucks, you're talking with Jesus. Why are you here? What are the reasons that you're here? What's going on? Are you here because of comfy seats? Or we've got good refreshments or scones or whatever? Or because there's somewhere for the kids to come? Is it out of habit? Does it make you feel good? Or because you get something out of it? I don't know. In John chapter 6, Jesus talked to his followers. And John commented, this was when they were feeding the 5,000. And John commented as he wrote about this, he said they were there because he was performing miracles. People were following him because of the show. People were following him because of the performance. They wanted to come and see the performance. And they fed all these people. And then they continued to follow him. And he said, the only reason you're following me is because I fed you. Free food. You want to have a good crowd? Free food. But they were just admirers because he began to talk to them about what it meant to follow him. And he began to lay it out, and he talked about his body and the blood and how he was going to have to die and how it was going to cost them to follow him, to be a follower of him. And then there's John 6:66. It says, from this time. In other words, once he really started talking about what it meant to be a follower of his, many of his disciples turned back and no longer followed him. When he had the DTR talk that day, he lost people. Why are you here today? Now, that's not a question for seekers. In our congregation, we have people that are on the continuum of a lot of different places, and there are people who have not yet made a commitment to Christ, and that's fine. We're glad you're here. We want you to be here. We want you to feel comfortable. We want to ask questions. Anything that we can help to make a comfortable place for people to seek, that's fine. But I'm talking to you folks who have followed Jesus and say, yes, I am a follower of Jesus, and I have been following him. A question he would ask you, why are you here? Second question may be, are you all in? This was when he was talking to them. He says, who am I? Who do people say that I am? And they were coming out. He said, but who do you say I am? And they said, you're the Son of God. And then he said, if anyone would come after me, he must deny himself, take up his cross daily, and follow me. Are you all in? I was talking with a student during spring break, and we just got talking about spiritual things. And I said, are you a Christian? He said, no. He said, why not? He said, if I were to say yes to God, then I'd have to do what he says. I thought, he just tweeted a great statement there, didn't he? I mean, that's less than 140 characters. I don't think he knew what he was saying, but he just identified the struggle of every human being in their relationship to God. Am I going to surrender? Am I all in or not? The second part of that little DTR talk that Lisa and I had revolved around another man that she was dating. I said, are you going to keep seeing so-and-so? And I said, you don't have to answer that. I'm not telling you to keep or not keep. But I just want you to know, if you keep seeing him, then I'm going to keep seeing her. And so we kind of had a little stare down there for a little while. You know, where's this relationship going? Are we going to move from casual to committed? And from that day forward, we've been exclusive. Are you all in? At the 8 o'clock service, this elderly gentleman came up and he was taking communion from me, and I said, this is the blood of Jesus shed for you. And he looked at me and said, I'm all in. I said, you got it, bud. I mean, you don't take communion and tell the pastor you're all in if you're not all in, do you? That's not a haphazard statement. He looked at me, I'm all in. Oh, what a blessing. Are you? Is everything on the table? Everything on the table? He comes and he says, look, I want to talk to you about that resentment in your heart toward another person. I want to talk to you about your money and your finances and what that means to you and how much, what does it mean in your giving to me? I want to talk to you about your sexuality, what you look at, what you do, what you watch in front of your computer. Is it all on the table? He wants to know, are you all in? Because I tell you what, just like with Lisa, she's not all in, I'm not all in. See, Jesus wants to know, are you all in? You want to be in an exclusive relationship, don't you? I mean, when you start getting in a committed relationship, it gets serious. It's just us. And then lastly, the question, have you made it your own? Luke 14:26, if anyone comes to me and does not hate his father and his mother, his wife, his children, his brothers and sisters, yes, even his own life, he cannot be my disciple. Now, Jesus isn't saying it's okay to hate your family here. He's not talking about hating your family. He's using exaggeration. He's using exaggeration here to make a point. And the point is that this relationship is going to be between you and him. You're not going to be able to say, well, my mama's a pastor, or my mama loves Jesus, my mama has a great faith, or my brother is in the ministry, or my husband loves the Lord, or my wife loves the Lord. Whatever. It has nothing to do with your family. This thing is between you and him. That's the primary relationship. And he wants to know, have you made this faith thing your own? Is it yours? A lot of times I think that's what happens with children in Christian families. They do go through times of struggle, and they do go times, sometimes of maybe even a walking away. And part of that, in a good, wholesome way, is children making their faith their own. But that has to happen with every single one of us. You're not going to be able to stand before Jesus and say, my mama was a Christian. He wants to know, have you made it your own? What's your assignment this week? You have an assignment. Your assignment is to have a DTR talk with Jesus. Find an hour somewhere this week. Here's some questions on the back of your bulletin. They can guide you through some things to ask and talk about. I want you to ask Jesus, am I a fan or a follower? You ask him. Work through these questions. Have a define the relationship talk this week with Jesus and see where you stand and where the relationship is. Now, that's not a bad thing. John 10:10 says, I came that they might have life and they might have it more abundantly. The reason he wants you all in, the reason he wants just you and him, is so that he can do what he wants to do with your life, so that he can make you what he wants to make you.
Thank you for listening to our message today. I hope that you've been inspired to act upon what you've just heard and become a doer of the Word. Feel free to contact us through the information on the screen or through our website. Better yet, if you're ever in the Niceville, Florida area, feel free to stop by and visit us at the Niceville United Methodist Church.